Well, the Blue Jays were active early in the offseason with the trade of Teoscar Hernandez, but it's been a little bit quiet over the last few weeks. Hey, everyone. Welcome into Long Ball. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Blue Jays writer Rob Longley, who is in San Diego for the winter meetings. And Rob, let's first start off with President Mark Shapiro, who spoke to the media on Tuesday. What did he have to say?
You know, he was pretty straightforward, Rob, with his expectations, not just for the team going forward, but for the franchise in terms of how it's going to approach getting to that next level. And you know, as you mentioned off the top, it doesn't appear that the Blue Jays have been active because they haven't really been able to accomplish anything yet. But it certainly seems like they are very active in terms of talks with other general managers, and especially with other high-end agents around the game. And Shapiro made it clear that they have the clearance from Rogers Communications, the club owner, to continue to spend. And the analogy that he drew was the owners have essentially said to him that, you know, we want to keep spending in line with the performance of this team, which has been nothing but on the upside over the past 4 or 5 seasons. So he was very bullish on the fact that this team is going to be able to spend for the remainder of this offseason. And you know, with that in mind, I wouldn't be shocked if there was something accomplished here in the next day or two, or certainly in the short term after the winter meetings wrap up.
Absolutely, and that's definitely something fans want to hear, that this team is willing to spend. And looking at that to-do list for the Jays this offseason, they've already made that one move that we referenced with Teoscar Hernandez. What do you think else is on that list for GM Ross Atkins?
Yeah, it certainly hasn't changed in terms of what those priorities are. Atkins has made it clear whenever he's spoken with us, including yesterday, and he'll say the same thing in another hour when we talk to him again, is that starting pitching remains that priority. They don't want to go into the season with a rotation that has Alek Manoah, Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, and question mark. They really feel that they need a back end of the rotation guy so they don't have to hope that Yusei Kikuchi gets better, or that they don't have to turn Mitch White from basically a bulk guy into a regular part of the rotation. Just as an aside to that, Rob, I had an interesting conversation with Luis Rivera, who was here as an assistant coach for Team Puerto Rico in the WBC, which is coming up in March. And I spoke to him about Jose Barrios, who's going to pitch for Puerto Rico at the WBC. But he told me that he saw Jose Barrios the other day in Puerto Rico, and he says he looks great, and he says he has all the expectations that he's going to be able to return to the form that the Jays saw in him when they signed him, and they expect a much better season from him going into next year. But even if that is the case, that leaves them with one and possibly two arms that they need for the starting rotation. And the other area of need is pretty obvious too. They're going to need somebody in the outfield to replace Teoscar Hernandez, as you mentioned, Rob. And I think ideally that would come in the form of somebody who could be adept at the left side of the plate, but certainly a hole in their attack for the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, well, it's hard to believe it, but spring training is right around a corner. It's going to be here before we know it, but still a lot of runway here in the baseball off season. For all of Rob's coverage of the Blue Jays and the winter meetings, you can head over to the Toronto Sun.